So my name's Kat, and I'm still an alcoholic. It now gives me great pleasure to hand the meeting over to Polly P, who's going to be sharing with us on step 4. I've had the privilege of getting to hear this woman a number of times online, and I'm so glad that she's back here with us tonight. So over to you, Polly.
Oh, thank you so much, Kat. It's so good to be here, and it's so good to see Gordon. And I've been on this. I've been sharing on this for a few years now. We've been doing this. And one of the things that happens is it's like if you come to a meeting all the time and you're a regular, there are going to be days when you are really up. There are going to be days when you're not. And there are just going to be days when life's in session. And so I'm kind of sitting here tonight. Usually I'm feeling perky. I feel pretty good, except that I'm very tired. I've had, my husband and I just got him out of the hospital last night. And it's just been, those kinds of days, and the days that we have to suit up and show up and are a little harder than the other days. So at any rate, that's kind of where I am today. But I still feel like when at all possible, keep your commitments. I've had to cancel a lot of travel that I had intended to do, and I haven't been able to do that, but I can do Zoom. And I'm just so excited to be here today because there's people on here I love so much. And I'm going to give you my credentials. Then I'm going to point out some people that are really special that are on here today. My credentials my name is Polly Pistol, and I'm an alcoholic. And by God's grace and some really hard work in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, I haven't had a drink since April the 11th of 1977. And for that, I am so grateful. I am eternally grateful. I am more grateful for my sobriety today than I have ever been, because it is major that I be able to know that I have God to turn to. And I have a woman that I sponsor that I spoke to earlier, and she is a minister of Christian faith, and she prayed with me. And, I have to remember when all of these things are trying to attack me at once, that's when I have to turn to God the most, because that's where the enemy's coming at me the hardest. And I've got to know that God, no matter what, is standing there to protect. And that's the way I feel. She prayed with me, and I feel like, I'm just so grateful to be here. I have some women that I have the privilege of sponsoring on here today. I have Suzanne and Denise, and they're both on tonight, and that's really fabulous. And I have Sarah, who is a sponsee of a sponsee, and it's wonderful to see the people that I know and love, and have them to come on to the Zoom as well. So and I have lots of friends that I've met on Zoom over the past, I guess we've been doing this close to 3 years now, but we've been doing it for a while. It's because a lot of these people have gotten sober on Zoom. And people, when we first started this, you remember everybody said, nobody can get sober on Zoom. Well, a lot of people have gotten sober on Zoom, and it's a fabulous, fabulous thing. And there's a couple of them on this Zoom right now. They got sober on Zoom, and it's just amazing. My job today is to talk about step 4. And one of the things that I want to do is in order to do that, I'm going to tell you a little of my history. and where I've come from. I've done a lot of step fours. In fact, I'm in the middle of the steps right now. There is a new step series out there called the Lions Step Series. And a man by the name of Marty J has started this. And my sponsor, Rena Kay, she is absolutely in the middle of the Lion series, and it's doing workshops and it's doing this step study. It's absolutely fabulous. I'm going to do it. All of what they're doing are exactly out of the big book. But I thought what I would do today is talk about a journey with step four, because I've done a lot of step fours and I'm about to do one now. And I'm into that right now too. And so I'm going to talk about what happened. When I got sober, I ended up being court committed to a treatment center in Dallas, Texas. And in that treatment center, they told me I had to get a sponsor. Well, I had been through this detox center twice. And the man who ran the detox center had literally saved my life out of a motel room, just went in and got me and brought me back to that detox. And I just really loved him. And so the treatment center told me that I needed to get a sponsor. And I just didn't know anybody, and they were taking us to AA meetings, but nobody had touched me like Frank had. And so I asked Frank if he would sponsor me. And he said yes, but don't call him while I'm in treatment. Just be at his house the day I got out. And so that's what I did. And I went to his house, and we did steps 1 and 2, and we got on our knees, and we talked about, God, I offer myself to you. I want to build with me and to do with me as I will, but relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. And we did a third step. And what he was trying to tell me before doing that third step is what was wrong with me. We had done 1 and 2, and my life was unmanageable, and I was out of control, and things were just, seemed like, oh my God, I'll never get all this stuff scraped back in. And that I just had to surrender to the fact that, I'm powerless. I am absolutely powerless, and my life is unmanageable, and that there is a power out there, and come to believe in that power that can restore me to sanity. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a God of my understanding to hold on to. And this God is going to direct me through this 4th step. This God is going to be what's going to relieve my selfishness and self-centeredness. And we think that is the root of our problems. We are driven by 100 forms of fear and self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity. We step on our fellows and they retaliate. Sometimes they hurt us seemingly without provocation, but we invariably find that at some time in the past, we have made a decision based on self, which later placed us in a position to be hurt. So what I have to learn is that my troubles are of my own making. This is my troubles. Life may give me a good kick in the butt, and a lot of us get big kicks. But the thing is, what am I going to do when I get this big kick? Am I going to hold on to that power greater than myself tighter? Or am I going to look for reasons that this is happening to me and it has nothing to do with me? But it is all about me. If I'm feeling bad, it is nobody's, it's all about me, because all I have to do is pick up these tools and start to work them and see what's wrong with me and get that turned around. And the rest of the world looks fine. The rest of the world's just doing what they do. They're just doing what they do. And what I have to learn to do is not let things outside of myself be the thing that is the most powerful. And that day he told me, he said, we got on our knees and said the third step prayer that I read. And he said, in the next week, when you come back, I want you to have he showed me how to do the 4-step, and I'm going to do that. I want to lay it out for you the way I do them. And we're going to do a 4-step, and I want you to be back the next week and we'll talk about it. And so that's what we did. And what he did is I had a spiral notebook, and we laid it out, and I drew a line down the middle and a line across. So I'm going to have one resentment. I'm going to have 2 resentments per page. And what I do is go across with the 4 columns. Who am I resentful at? Who am I angry at? Why am I angry? What do I think they're doing to me? And then I have to say, what part of me does that affect? Does that affect my self-esteem, my pride, my ambitions, my personal relationships, my sex relationships? What part of me does that affect? And then what's my part? What is my mistake, as the book says? What is my mistake? Am I dishonest, selfish, self-seeking, or frightened? And in this particular inventory, inconsiderate has been added. But the book only gives dishonest, selfish, self-seeking, and afraid, frightened. And what we do is we're going to try to see, what is it inside of me that causes me to have that effect on what somebody does to me. And my first inventory, I did not have a lot on it. And I didn't know a lot, but I didn't have a lot. But I had my parents, my husband, and the United States Air Force. That's who I was angry at. And I know later, after I did the inventory, that I was also angry at God, that a lot of things had happened. And so those were the people that I was angry at. I did not have my sons, because I told him I'm not angry at my sons. And he said, well, we'll put them on a harm's done list. And that's all the way back in the sex inventory, even though this was not, I had not sexually abused my children. But what I had done is I had harmed my children. And what I did to them, what was making me feel so guilty and so believing that God could never, ever forgive me. And that held me for a lot of years. And sometimes that even creeps back up, that part. But I was able to write out about my mom and my dad and my husband. And my husband ended up getting very ill. He ended up going to Vietnam at the end of the Vietnam War. He was in the country Vietnam, and he was working as they turned the country over to the Vietnamese. and he was exposed to Agent Orange. And then he ended up with congestive heart failure and died at a very young age. He died after we divorced, after I got sober, but he died at the age of 60, very young. And what happens is I found myself angry at all those incidents. I found myself angry that I was alcoholic, angry that he was very, very sick and I couldn't take care of him. And I was angry at that. I was angry at myself. And what happens is I did that inventory and I looked at those things. I looked at each thing, and put these people on the list, and I tried to find out, what I am angry at. What is it that I'm angry at? I'm angry at his disease. I'm angry at the U.S. Air Force. Now I got to put the Air Force on there. And all these things keep popping up. And then the list can grow longer than what you started with. So we start with a few things on the list, and sometimes as we write, more things pop up and we can put them on the list. So that, and what it affects, and, was it my self-esteem? Was it my security? Was it my ambitions, my personal or sex relations, which had been hurt, threatened, or interfered with? And with me, it was mostly my self-esteem, my security. My self-esteem was, I felt bad. I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. Those things were happening to me. My security, I didn't know, what was going to happen to me. Now I'm an alcoholic. What's going to happen to me? Where am I? Where do you go from here? And my personal or sex relationships. And all of these things that I wrote down. And then I had to go, where am I selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, or frightened? Where am I those things? Where do I, what part of that did I play? How did I harm myself? By no matter what anybody did to me, how I harmed myself was worse than what anyone did to me or I thought did to me. And as a result of that, then I was just doing the writing because I'm doing step 4 here. I'm not doing 5. Denise is going to do 5 next week. And Denise, I don't know if I said anything about you, but Denise she is going to be doing the step 5. So what I'm doing is in the process of writing this and what happens. At the time, I didn't have really anything to put on a sex inventory. I had not been unfaithful to my husband. I had not done any of those things at the time prior to sobriety. But after sobriety, even before sobriety happened, during one of my treatment centers, I ran off with a man in treatment. Who does that? But that's what I did. Here I had a husband and 2 sons. So now I have stuff on a sex inventory. And when I got here, I was someone who had a lot of faith in what it meant to be, faithful in your marriage and all of those things that are wonderful, wholesome ideas that I went to detox with, and I quickly let those things go. I sat in detox. I ended up in this detox center that I didn't want to go to, thought I was way too good for. I mean, I sat there and thought, oh my God, I am just not like these people. I am not like these people. And they are, I don't even know what kind of people they are. And I end up running off. I've been sitting there for about 3 days in detox, and all of a sudden my husband's been sick for a long time, and I'm 36 years old, and all of a sudden my libido starts to recover, and these guys in detox look good. And I end up running off with one and end up getting very drunk and being put in a very bad situation and end up with the man who is in charge of this detox center 12-stepping me out of a motel room and bringing me back into this detox center. Now I am so full of shame. I cannot even believe what's going to happen to me. I can't even believe what I'm going to do. And because now I'm so full of shame. So what I'm doing is I'm being introduced to sobriety, and I'm messing up my life worse than ever. And then what happens is, because I feel like my life is so messed up, I've been introduced to this stuff, and now I'm just screwing up worse than ever. And what happens is I leave that detox center and I try to commit suicide. I get a bottle of scotch and a bottle of Valium, and I check into a motel room. And I have a friend, and she says that something came over her. And I know today that was God working in my life through her, because she started to drive around and see if she could find me. And she was driving around looking for me. And she found my car in front of this motel, and I hadn't shut the door. I just closed it. And she pushed it open and found me laying there. And on April the 8th of 1977, I was pronounced dead on arrival in a hospital in Bedford, Texas. But because I was resuscitated when I arrived at that hospital, I'm alive today. So I love when we talk about seconds and inches. Seconds and inches. That's what we're about here. Just seconds and inches. And that's what it was for my life, seconds and inches. And my husband, when that happened, you get the attention of the authorities, and I had to go to a psychiatric hospital for 3 days. And my husband obtained a court order that court committed me to treatment. And in this treatment center, it's where I was introduced to this 4-step. We read about it. We were introduced to it. And there's 3 parts to this inventory. There is my resentments, there's my fears, and there's my sexual conduct. And I knew nothing about having anything about sexual conduct, but I certainly created a lot of it in a very short time. And the most despicable ways you could do it. And I have, through the years, I have done inventories on different things. And right now I'm having to do another inventory, because I'm seeing I'm letting a lot of things overwhelm me. And so I was talking to my sponsor, Rena, the other day, and I said, well, I need to do a 5th step on all these fears and things that the fears that I have. And she said to me, we don't need to do a 5th step. We need to do a 1st step. Your life is absolutely unmanageable. You have too much. You absolutely have got to unload. You've got to unload. There's too much, and your situation you can't do all of that and do this too. But see, the ego that we have, I got sober, and one of the things that I have had that has served me so well in sobriety is my desire to help other people, to sponsor other people, to be there. It has absolutely lit my fire. It's the thing that makes me so excited about Alcoholics Anonymous. And what happens is, because of my situation, and I'm a caregiver to my husband, who is 86, and I am 82. I mean, this is too elderly. I can't even stand that word. To elderly people trying to get, to make it here. And it's very, very difficult. So what I'm having to learn to do is something that I've never paid any attention to, because I've always had this drive to do everything I could in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm hearing words like, if you don't take care of yourself, who's going to take care of Dave? You have got to learn to take care of yourself. And you've got to pull in. And you can't be giving yourself away to everybody when you have somebody here that needs your help. And see, this is the thing that has sustained me. I said, I don't know how I'm going to give a talk on step 12, because step 12, it's like that I had this feeling in AA, and there was this man in Long Beach by the name of Frank Honeycutt, who I miss every single day to this day. And Frank used to say, if you got a problem, if you're feeling bad, just go help somebody and you'll feel better. Just go help somebody and you'll feel better. And the thing that I have to do is who I like to help is another alcoholic. And my husband is another alcoholic. But right now, that's who I've got to send. I've got to pay attention to what's going on here in my household. He just got out of the hospital yesterday, and he's 86 years old, and he's going to have a heart valve replacement. And he had a heart cath on Monday that did not go right, and ended up having to spend the night in the hospital. And it's just like things can go wrong and things can happen. And what happens is sometimes I'm not prepared because of the way I think and want all my ducks in a little row, is that I am not prepared when life happens. And life happens. And I've been supposed to do some traveling, and I have not been able to do any of that traveling because my husband has been too ill for me to leave him with people I could leave him with. So life is taking a change. And what I'm having to do is to learn to change with it and learn to go with what the situation is in front of me. And the thing that's the most wonderful about all of it is if I stay clean and if I stay in the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, even with all the sobriety I have, my sponsor's saying, you're on step 1, you're not on step 5. So these are the things that I have had to learn to deal with, is listen to my sponsor, listen to, I'm going to do an inventory. And she's saying, no, we're not going to do, step 4 and 5. I'm on step 1. So what I have to do is to realize that I've got to keep this stuff cleaned up as I go. Because what happens is if I don't, I'm going to find myself overwhelmed. And what we have and are so blessed in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous is no matter how many years of sobriety we have, and no matter how much service we do or how many people we sponsor, all of us are going to end up absolutely in the same place. And that is working these steps every single day in some way in our lives. And working these steps is what's going to give me the relief, and really already has, because I have started to deal with some of my fears. And I've got some fears that go with step 4, that we have to write about our fears and what's going. And most of the time, every single fear I have is because I'm forcing God out. I am trying to deal with an impossible situation that cannot be dealt with by a human. And of course, I'm afraid, but it's not too big for God. God can do it. And God is in every area of my life. What I can't do is I have an enemy that is inside of me that lives with me every single day. And it's a disease called alcoholism. It is the thing that will kill me. It doesn't matter how many years of sobriety I have. It doesn't matter. It's there. And I have to be on top of alcoholism every single day. So I say to you, if anything is bothering you, maybe you ought to get out a piece of paper and just write about who or what you're angry at, why you're angry, what it affects, and what it affects in me. What does it affect? And then, what was my mistake? Where had I been dishonest, frightened, self-seeking, and afraid? Where had I been those things? Where had I brought that whole situation to myself? And in the end, it wasn't anybody else. It wasn't anything else. It was my thinking and my perception that had got me in this spot. And I do the very best I can to stay clean in the steps, because they are the thing that will fight the thing that lives in me called alcoholism that's out to get me every single day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Polly. I'm just going to allow everyone to unmute themselves just quickly so that they can thank you. So there we go. So you should be able to unmute yourselves.
Thank you, Polly.
Thank you.
Prayers are with you, dear.
Thank you, Polly. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Polly.
Go. All right. Oh, there we go. All right, there we go. So Cat Alcoholic, Polly, thank you so much for your generous share. I think it's one of the most powerful ones that I've heard at this step meeting, and the importance of step 4. And what I was thinking about as I was listening to you was like that first step 4 I did, like you, it cleared out all those resentments, and it allowed me to have space for like new ones and new fears. And I needed that, and so you can see the importance of it. And, we continue to take personal inventory as it talks about in step 10. And I too, am taking care of my mom at the moment. And so your message tonight was, very pertinent. So thank you so much for that. All right, guys. So it's a big meeting tonight. So if anyone would like to share back with Polly or ask a question about step 4,